Hello everyone, Brian Jennings here. I hope everyone had a good weekend. This channel is dedicated to discussing the nature of my relationship with Quentin Tarantino. I am the man who should have been the movie critic, but as a result of my cowardice, I instead unwittingly opted to put myself in a dangerous psychic siege with the man. He canceled the movie as a result of some reviews that I wrote and wanted to give me a chance, but in order to trust me, he wanted me to be a telepath all the way up onto the stage and question him about his book in an impromptu conversation at a screening of Jackie Brown last year. And I argue, and this argument is valid, that that's the only reason that conversation is not online now. Because everything that he said was in relation to me. Are we all to believe that the conversation that Quentin Tarantino has with Robert De Niro at De Niro Con for his 80th birthday is not worth putting online? Is that right? But the point is that, right, he set up an initiation for me through telepathy, and I failed it. I suppose wittingly, but cowardice isn't a death sentence. And so everything that he's done thereafter has been to not only compel me to appear insane, but to compel me to eat a bullet and kill myself. And so the channel exists to discuss it, because now that he knows that I will never kill myself, all that's left is vulgar evil, up to and including him sending someone to assassinate me. And the thought that I just had now, I've spent so much time on this channel discussing the metaphysics of the mind, and ultimately it's grasping at straws. No one really knows anything definitively concrete. We can explain a formula that we experience within the material world, but we cannot formulate a psychic or psychological condition within the mind beyond our parameters of what is occurring. So when articles come out that say, why is AI good at physics? AI isn't good at physics. It's good at analyzing man's explanation of the physical universe. That's what's actually occurring. And so when they say things like, oh, observation proves something correct, what they're actually saying is that our observation suggests that what we see reflects the formula that someone else, another human, put onto a piece of paper and used as a law to describe the physical universe. Which, of course, is hubris, is arrogance, and all those things. But the thought that I had was, perhaps he does have some sort of bizarre feat of engineering, where he puts on the VR helmet and then he, right, because he has a lot of money. And I don't believe that's true. But, of course, like AI, learning physics, I don't rightly know, because I haven't actually spoken to the man. And so, we're talking about it now because I feel that my life is in danger. And so every day that goes by, they say, oh, well, look, see, look, there's nothing happening. But they can't invalidate the reality that if what I am saying is true, then he has put himself in a dangerous psychological condition, and at any moment could hit his breaking point and pay someone to come here and murder me. That's the point. That he can finally say, no, that's it. Right? He's never going to kill himself. He's never going to stop talking about it, because all I care about is him telling the truth about the movie. You can believe all of the psychic bullshit. You can believe, that's all fine and dandy, right? But he can say, oh, well, I actually canceled the film because this actor who I really appreciated was writing reviews in protest. And I wanted to give him a shot where he could have questioned me about my book at a screening of Jackie Brown, but he decided to turn his back and walk away. That's he could say that. And I can't really say much beyond that, beyond the truth that he expected it to be a telepathic waltz, a telepathic dance. And that's his right as a filmmaker. I find no fault in him having expectations of me being telepathic all the way up onto the stage. And so, I'm almost certain, I don't know, that everything that he's done since then has been him raging at the fact that he knows that I am a psychic clairvoyant. That I could have done it. And that he'll never be free of me in some way. And that's also true. That he and the people around him, perhaps it's all just him. Perhaps it's him and 3 other people. Right? It's all up to him to tell the truth. Have spent so much time remote viewing me that they have engendered a case study psychologically in me as well as in everyone else who is involved. And that's objectively true, though it cannot be objectively proven unless Quentin wants to tell the truth. I can't compel anyone to believe something that he's not prepared to acknowledge and recognize openly in the public. So he is allowed to always say that I'm a crazy fan, right? Like he's allowed to say, oh no, this guy, right? Oh, he has no idea like what he's talking about. And undoubtedly that's what he tells everyone involved. But there are at least like 5 people that I could rattle off right now that have known about me since the time that he canceled the film. Because when he canceled the film, he was making the film. Perhaps he was just in pre-production, but that's irrelevant. He was beholden to someone. And so he doesn't get to just say, oh, bosh, poo-poo, I don't like the movie anymore, right? There's people putting money up. There's institutions putting money up, asking him why. Why don't you want to do this? And so, right, he has either lied to all of them, relentlessly looking them all in the eye, and that's possible too, or he told them, he overplayed his hand, right? In his mind, he says, oh, I overplayed my hand. But really, he overplayed his hand as a psychic, right? That he told everyone, oh, this is my new guy, and he's going to like interview me. But what he didn't tell them, right, is that he only discussed this plan with me telepathically in the psychic crucible of the mind's eye. And so when he stuck his nose up at my writing and he turned his back on me, right, I behaved like a real show business jackass and found an excuse to say no. And so I hated myself for months. That's why I quit my job. That's why I threw myself onto the street, not being desperate for fame, to show him that I respect it, that I do love him and appreciate how he communicates with me, which is a divine celestial resonance, which is a wisdom. And so he used that wisdom, right, to compel me not only to appear insane, but to actually make me go insane and to make me blow my brains out. And that is quite literally the definition of evil. And when he failed to do that, he descended into very palpable black magic evil to try to give me diseases, him and the people around him, through clairvoyance. And I know that that's a stretch because it is. It's pure evil. But it is. It's objectively true. It's not objectively provable. You can't formulate a spiritual psychological condition in the same way that you can formulate an observation of a photon of light through space. But that's his ammunition. That's the point. That he can always deny and hover over me like a disgusting psychic vampire. And so I have no choice but to talk about it, because the idea of me persisting the rest of his life, the rest of my life, right, in this way is so hideous and ugly. The thought of it enduring 20, 30 years, right, is not only illogical, it's dangerous psychologically. And so this is my point when I say, oh, he wants me to die. Because he's done all of these things, never expecting to spend any time with me, never expecting to make any real memories with me. Therefore, he's putting himself into a state of psychological illness and mental illness. Therefore, right, he wants me to die so he can have his mind back in full. Very sinister, as sinister and evil as it gets. And so I've crossed 8,000 subscribers on the channel. And for that, I'm very grateful. I appreciate everyone. I appreciate everyone offering kind comments, primarily kind comments of encouragement, though undoubtedly people have strong opinions about what I have to say about AI and what I have to say about Quentin, right? That there's like, that you can have a hero, that you can say, oh no, he's my favorite, and like I don't care about the feet and like all that. Like that's fine. But to liberate your ignorance and like elevate your understanding is the recognition that sometimes the people that you admire, in fact, are not good people. And so I find myself in an ethical quagmire with this regard. It is obvious on a fundamental level that I was supposed to submit my mind to Quentin and be the final sin eater for Hollywood and be the last actor that has to be subjected to this treatment, right? To complete his filmography on his terms. But in not giving him what he wanted, he has exposed a palpable, dangerous evil that I do not support in any way. And so, I made the right decision, despite how difficult it has been, how difficult it is, and how difficult it will continue to be forevermore. So, all that's left is to talk about it, because all that's left is evil. There's no more varnish. He can't, right? He can't like dress it up in any sort of way and say, oh no, this is what I actually meant, because there's no other way to interpret it, because we're still not making any real memories together. And so I've been doing the best that I can to take my mind back. I've started writing again. I've written 63 pages of another story, but it's attached to the novel. I've written a novel about my experiences. It's called Building a Coven. He plagued my mind with notions of multiple women loving me. Again, all to make me appear insane. And so I've been writing a story about the last day that they finished principal photography with the actors in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it's unfolding like in a real palpable way, and I am writing it. 63 pages is perhaps 15,000 words. It's not a small amount of words. So that's nice. Been meditating more, been remote viewing whoever I want. But it is true that we have this case study. And so I have to talk about it because I don't have the resources that he has. I don't have people that I can look to in a meaningful way who I can tell this to and they actually understand and say, oh, how can I help? They all just say, we'll pray for you, or they completely dismiss me outright. And I don't fault any of those people for that. This is a very rarefied, subtle thing that we're talking about here. And so I'm picking up the pieces as best as I am able. He wants me to sue him. He's always wanted me to sue him, right? But I can't do that anymore. It's not about money. It's never been about money. Solves nothing. Money in no way stops anyone from destroying the ethical standard within themselves and practicing pure evil if they see fit. Right? Literally no one. You can be locked up in a prison cell or a hospital and still practice all of the things that I'm touching on in this channel in a meaningful way. Because the mind, right, is liberated. And this is what I talked about in my letters and my monologues to Mike Simpson and aemanuel. That the things that they're endorsing, the things that they're supporting by their tacit acceptance of his behavior, by their believing his lies, right, can be done by anyone, anywhere. So I have to talk about it. And in talking about it, every time that I get someone to subscribe to this channel, every time I get someone to consider the real story of the movie critic, to actually say, oh, gosh, like I wonder why he did like actually cancel that film. Like what we see on People magazine like isn't necessarily like the objective truth, that there's like a polished product that people see in society as a whole, and then there's the actual malignant, hideous, right, Golgotha that exists underneath. So this is why I talk about it, because as long as we persist in this way until he shows me palpably through an actual gesture in his public life that he does not want me to die, then I have no choice but to assume that his whole life is devoted to seeing me die. And so that's done in essentially one of three ways. The first way, which is the best, is that he simply tells the truth about the film, no money required. Just tell the world you canceled the film because you had an unknown actor that you wanted to give a shot to, but he didn't meet the criteria that you expect from your actors in your films. Perfectly reasonable, But the problem is that as soon as he says me by name, it brings the press to me. All of the press already know who I am. So when he admits that, he is admitting, oh, the things that this man has been saying are in fact true to a degree. And so the second method for me to end this campaign is for him to privately pay me. And this is what I likely suspect will happen inevitably. That he will pay me however much money to take everything down, and that money, right? So the statement, that's him saying, oh, I don't want you to die, Brian. Like, yes, there it is. Like, I'm being forthright and being honest about the film and how I had high hopes and expectations from you, but you humiliated me and you hurt me. That's the honest to God truth, right? But the second way where he can keep it, this ugly occulted thing, is where he pays me $20 or $30 million out of his pocket. And then I take everything down, and the money is a tangible gesture showing me, here's this money. Now you can take this money and go to New York or LA or London or anywhere, and you can hire several different clairvoyants to work for you, and we can all operate on this sick psychic siege level forever. In the third way, which is very frightening, and why I'm talking about it, is that he can send someone to murder me. Right? And so if I just say nothing, then I have to assume that the only thing that I can rely on is the third option. That I have to look over my shoulder for the rest of my life. Because we have a case study in remote viewing, and we exist as a hive mind. And no matter what he tells people, I'm all the way in their minds just as much as they're all the way in my mind. So, this is why I talk about it. This is why I take the time each day to bring it up, despite how painful it is to me. I am doing nothing here but say that I'm a loser. That's all that's happening here. He gave me a beautiful opportunity. It was supposed to be the most beautiful moment of his career, and I made it ugly by my cowardice. I acknowledge that. No movie star Brian, that's fine. I made it ugly. He's made it evil. That's the point. And so, I don't want to die. I don't want to kill myself. I don't want to exist as a psychic phantom in his mind. I don't want him existing as a psychic phantom in my mind. But since those are absolute axioms, it's done. We both have this connection, and it will never diminish. Or at least it will take multiple years. And since he's done awful things to me, the worst things that anyone could possibly fathom, and I'm not going to go on, it actually behooves him to continue remote viewing me or paying people to watch me, because he, in his sick degeneracy, cannot simply trust me in the world, because he knows that I can do all of the same awful shit to him that he's done to me. And so therefore, our connection will never diminish. That's the point. And so therefore, I have to assume that he wants me to die. And so this is why I talk about it. To remind people in the world that art, or the negation thereof, stems from some psychological truth within the artist. Right? And I could talk about that for another 20 minutes, but I only have so many minutes left. But I'm doing good works as best as I can. I'm moving on. And I hope that he loves himself and loves his family enough to not descend into actual evil and kill me. Because it is. As it stands now, he has practiced the highest evil, short of assassination, that anyone can practice. Dangerous black magic evil that anyone can deny, no court can ever try you on. And I can do the same things. But if I do, right, if I actually take steps in that offensive way, then he'll send someone to kill me. That's all there is. I have no choice but to assume that. Why would he just let me torture me in the way he's tortured me? Let me torture him in the way he's tortured me. I mean, and that's when the therapist says, oh, you're projecting. Anyway, it's a complicated story. That's my point. And so I have to talk about it. Right? He didn't cancel it for aloof artistic reasons because it wasn't working in his mind. It wasn't working in his mind because he didn't want me writing 100,000 words in protest of the film. Because I wrote him a bunch of letters, and he decided that it was better to stick his nose up in my writing and say nothing to me. So I wrote a 7,000-word essay reminding the world that Brad Pitt won his Oscar thanks to Quentin Tarantino for beating up his wife on an airplane. And he canceled the film because he knew eventually if I kept reviewing movies in protest, it was going to bring people to that essay, which would remind them that not only did Quentin allow Harvey Weinstein to run amok on his first 8 films, the first one that he made without him, he appropriated the destruction of Brad Pitt's marriage and his spousal abuse as the plot for Cliff Booth's storyline. So, oh gosh, the mystery of the movies, right? This is the real story. This is what's actually happening. And so you can put your blinders on for the glamour of it all, or you can see it for what it is and open your eyes. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all those things. Hit the notification button. My heart is with you all. Right? May grace shine upon you as the week unfolds. And I look forward to hearing what you have to say. God bless.